All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the inaugural St. Louis Arts Chamber of Commerce virtual Holiday Arts Expo. At least it's virtual this year due to the situation that we're all in. We're so excited to have you all. Thank you so much for joining us, whether you're tuning in live to hear us chat or if you're going to be joining us on the replay. Either way, we're so glad to have you here. So, as we wait for people to kind of come in and join, I'm going to start. Sorry if I'm distracted, letting people in. That is the age of Zoom that we live in right now. But we wanted to welcome you to our first artist talk of the expo. We are here with the Anvil Fire and Time. Hold on one second. I'm getting a little bit of an echo. Hold on. Maybe that fixed it. Hey, Mike, can you mute? I think that might be the problem. Oh, actually, here. There we go. Okay, I think I fixed it. Okay, that's the problem with all of the different technology issues. I'm so sorry about that. In any case, we wanted to chat today with one of our artists, Anvil Fire and Time. But I want to know a little bit more about that name. But Rejane, can you, am I saying that right?
That's okay.
Okay. Well, we would love to have you introduce yourself because you're the best one to tell us about who you are and the name of your company and the medium that you operate in. So the floor is yours. Introduce yourself.
Thanks. So first, welcome and thanks for coming in and listen to me blabbing. So my name is Rejane. That's French because I am French. My husband dragged me to the US about 10 years ago. And I had a complicated life. I used to be a scientist, and then 7 years ago, I had an aneurysm, and it just prevented me from talking and using my hands for the best part of a year. And when you have a brain injury, the best way to heal it is to trigger new connections, learn new things. So one day, out of the blue, I decided to take a silversmithing class. It was a bit of a challenge because I couldn't still use my hands very well. But I just fell in love, and slowly, step by step, I just kept on. I really loved it. I decided to stick to it, and it just became a passion, my new job. And so that's the time part of my business name, Fire and Time, just because it takes so much. It took me a lot of time to actually get to a technical level where I could pretend to make this my job. And it's also the time that I spend on every piece I make, just to make sure that it's just. Then Anvil and Fire, where I use a lot of hammers and an anvil to create textures, and fire from my door, which is my most favorite tool ever. And that's also the one I use most often, only to create texture and jewelry as a whole.
That's awesome. I love it. Well, it's so fun to hear how people get to their art and how life kind of art comes out of our lives, right? And that's amazing. Thank you for sharing that. So I think we learned a little bit about art, which is always fun, and how you kind of came up with the name, which I always find interesting how people come up with the names of their business. So hold on one second, sorry. Okay, cool. Technology, man, like it's supposed to be helpful, and sometimes it definitely is this distracted. I'm sorry, I was looking. Wait, did you tell us how you came up with Anvil Fire and Time?
Yeah, so time is, as I said, the time it took me to get technical proficiency so that I could make this kind of healing art as a job. And then Anvil and Fire, these are the tools that I most commonly use to create jewelry.
I love it. Thank you for that. Like I said, having the name of the art is always really fun, how people come up with it. So one kind of like really broad question that I like to ask is, where do you find your inspiration? Like what where do you find the thing that says, okay, I need to go then do this piece of work? Where do you find inspiration?
Yeah, that's the question I get most commonly asked. And that's the one I have no clue how to answer, because to me, creation it's a kind of second state. It's like being in a trance or a meditative process. And I don't know where it all comes from. I'm tempted to say there's a whole part of my life as a scientist. I spent traveling around the world, living in about a dozen countries. So you get a different take on culture, what's beautiful, what isn't. So you kind of soak it up, and that's here with me. There's another part that's linked to the fact that taking up silversmithing was a healing process. And with this, I processed a lot of things that are in my head, the struggles I had to have to recover. I'm dealing with survival guilt, because why did I make it through where so many others just die or are left crippled to some extent? It's something I am struggling with. And so there are different parts of my life that are stored in here in my head, and they are processed in ways that I'm not really aware of. But then when I'm at the bench, there are things that need to go out. And there's this direct connection from that part of my brain to my hands. I see it happening from a step back. I'm conscious of what I'm making because I need to control my techniques. But the creative part, it's a flow that I observe, but I don't question, I don't think about it. It just flows from my brain to my hands, and that's it.
That's amazing. Yeah, I think it's sometimes, oh, thought we were having a weird echo. Sometimes it's really hard when people ask, where does that inspiration comes from? Because sometimes it's in my brain. That's what I do. And so when you have to try to like take one medium of your art and translate it into words, sometimes that's really hard. So thank you for indulging us. I know that that's like a standard question. One question that I just got chatted to me here privately was like, can you tell us about your process? I see you're in your studio, right? Can you like kind of like show us around? Because that's kind of the cool thing about this virtual experience, is that we're not all like in a tent somewhere on a street corner and you're just bringing us your things. Like I can actually see into like your shop. So can you maybe like kind of like don't to take us around,
but my computer is set up on a very sketchy. Well, there's lots of things piled up.
No worries. But like maybe point behind you and be like, this is what I do.
So right here at the back, let me just, this is a polishing machine. This is actually the last part of jewelry making, where you want to make it all nice and shiny and smooth. Sometimes it's not really my thing to make smooth things, but when I have to, that's the kind of machine I use. And then what you see here, let's see, that's a little motor that drives that handpiece, where I can put a lot of different little accessories. And this I can use for drilling, polishing small pieces. Using different little tools that help me create textures or improve, build up my pieces as needed.
Okay.
And right at the back over there, that's my soldering station. Mm-hmm. And this is really where the magic happens, where I play with fire. And this is really the happiest place in my studio.
Oh, I love it. Do you have any samples around? Like, what are you working on right now?
The other thing I have here, it's a small ring I'm building up. So here at the center, there's a small square emerald that's supposed to sit here. And I'm going to drill 2 little holes on each side to put hopefully small circular emeralds as well. This is the other thing that's on my bench right now, because as I was getting ready for this virtual show, I just put away everything and
I mean, obviously, you're like, you want to clean up and like, you know,
yeah,
have people over. That's
I had to
awesome.
make space and make sure the computer would be reasonably safe.
There you go. So what all, do you just work in one type of metal, or do you work in lots of different ones? And how did you figure out which one you like to work in and what's your favorite?
So I work mainly with sterling silver. One of the reasons is that I started learning with that metal. And then I was told that it's just the most challenging of all. So I was like, well, if I can do it with silver, then I can move on to anything else, and that will be a piece of cake. So then sterling silver, just because it contains a small part of copper, it just lets you create textures by sort of removing the copper from it. And then you get those crazy textures that you cannot get with any other metal. So that's the reason I stuck to it. And then sometimes when I need different accents, I can use copper, or now I'm trying gold as well.
Mm.
It's a bad time because the prices are just hitting the roof. And it just, that was the craziest idea I ever had to start working with gold right now. But I have to say that you get some nice contrasts of textures and colors when using gold or copper. So that's mainly what I'm using right now.
Oh, that's so cool. That's so cool. I have a question in the chat. I don't know if you can see these, or these coming to me privately. But how do you remove copper from sterling? Someone wanted to know.
Sorry, your sound is fading away. Could you repeat the question, please?
Yes. Can you hear me? Is that good?
Yeah.
Okay. How do you remove copper from sterling?
Okay, so that's a process that's called depletion gilding. So sterling silver is 925 parts of silver and 75 parts of copper. But copper is diffused into the silver. The idea is to heat up the silver almost up to melting point, but not quite, so that the copper sort of bubbles up and reaches up to the surface. And then you just clean it, brushing it, removing the copper. And you do that 6, 7, 10 times until basically you know it's done. And you see the different, it's very subtle, but you see the silver that's sort of changing color. It becomes whitish, little more matte than regular sterling. And then you know it's ready for whatever you want to do. You could replace the copper with a thin layer of gold, or you could sort of create textures by a process called reticulation, where you create, oh, show this, give me a second. After depletion, you could create textures like this, you know, kind of ridges and valleys. And this is created after enough copper has bubbled up to the surface, and then that's the silver inside that's bubbling up and causing those ridges and valleys. It is a fascinating process. It's never the same. And you get those beautiful textures when you're done with it.
I literally, I had no idea that was even possible, that's how you did. I'm guessing this is something that you learned. You just didn't discover this, right?
No, there's very little left to actually discover. It's just knowledge that's being thankfully passed on from teachers to students. And then you can improve, you can add your own little tricks, but I said the physics of it remains the same.
That's fascinating. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I love doing these things. I can always learn something. That's so cool. I know that so I've been doing art fairs for a very long time, like presenting them and organizing them. And it's always, I love going by the jewelry shops because I always end up with I don't have anything on me that is local, which I should. I have my other earrings, but I love being able to find an individual piece that is custom made, that is because I always take a memory of that art fair away from that particular piece when you wear it, which is just really fun. So I love hearing these stories. Like I had no idea that that's what you do. So I have a couple of like other sort of like random questions. Let me make sure I made made through the list. Yeah. So you mentioned earlier that you were a scientist. So what field was that, and how that, tell us a little bit more. I love to hear people's backgrounds. I wonder if that like helped you in this chemistry kind of thing that you're doing in jewelry making.
So I was a researcher in plant biology, and my topic was figuring out how plants take nitrogen in the soil from their roots and send it upwards to the leaves, where it's processed and made into amino acids, which are the component of proteins, and then how those proteins go, let's say, to the seeds, because then we eat the seeds, so it's important for human nutrition. But then these proteins are also used to make flowers, make more leaves, for the plants to grow. And it's a very intricate process, lots of different steps. And I spent 20 years of my life investigating that. And I kind of miss it. But at the same time, I'm just so happy with what I'm doing now. So that's just two different chapters of my life.
Yeah. Do you think that the training in science had anything, has it helped you as an artist or as a business owner?
Well, there's one thing in science is that if you want to answer a specific question, you have to use the right tools and the right techniques. And this, I brought it with me to the studio because, well, one of my teachers called me the technique junkie, because every time I hear about a new technique that's being taught somewhere, I sign up for it. Because then the more techniques you know, the more freedom you have to tweak your metal, your silver in the ways you want to make the piece you want. So that's something that stays with me. And there's also the thing that everything on my bench has a specific place. So, you know, if I need a file, if I need tweezers, I just have to reach and I know it's there.
Mm-hmm.
And if someone touches my hammers or my things and it's not back at the right place, I completely freak out.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's the main two things from my scientific life that I took with me.
I love it. That's very cool. So kind of, you know, what the chamber is about is supporting artists, obviously, in their art, but also in their business, right? Because we're all small business owners, and that's Small Business Saturday. That's what we're doing today. So what do you wish people knew about the business of art?
I would say right now, it's almost holiday time, and I know the economy is bad. I know everybody's struggling, the artists too. And I think what would be nice this year for the customers and the artists is that maybe you buy less presents, you spend maybe less money, but make meaningful gifts, giving the gift of art and crafts. That's supporting artists, and that's also giving as a gift something that was made by a real person with their hands, their life experience, something that is truly meaningful. It's not something that's made in China by the million. It's something that has a story and that's linked to a real person. And to me, that's a beautiful thing. That's one of the best part of being an artist. And so, yeah, sometimes art is a little more expensive, but at the same time, it's just so much more meaningful. So maybe that's probably that would be the best way for me to go for my gifting process this year.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we would absolutely agree. Putting ourselves out there. When I was looking at all of our booths, I had to text it to certain people who will give me presents this year, and I said, here is a list of all of these amazing individualized things. And I definitely got excited about a number of things in your shop. So we're really excited. We can showcase all of these wonderful shops. But yeah, I think it's really great to look small. So I have one other question and then a quote, and we can wrap it up. But like, what has been the most surprising thing when you've been turning your art into your business? Like the business side of things, like what's been the most surprising part of that?
Honestly, that people actually like what I make. Yeah.
Oh.
It's just so I really started this because that just helped me feeling better physically and mentally. And then people just had a look at what I was making and they said, wow, that's pretty good. Can I buy it? And to me, that was really, do you really mean it? And from that kind of feedback, I just thought, yeah, maybe that could work. Maybe that could be an actual job. And it's really funny because, I mean, what I make is not really standard. It's quite tortured and complicated, and it's not, I understand it's not for everybody. And some people just tell me, this is weird. But then some people come to my booth and they're like, look at this, and this, and this, and this. And you can say, you can really tell that they really love it. And this is such a good feeling. It's very selfish, but it's also, I don't know, it's just the proof that this can work. I can make a business out of it. And it's childish too, but every time it's a new joy when someone buys something, it's such a good feeling.
I have been on Instagram and everyone else in the world, looking at small businesses and just because of Small Business Saturday. And a lot of people say, like, hey, buy small this holiday, because every time you buy from a person, like there's a little person on the other side who's doing the happy dance, who is like, exactly. Oh my gosh, you bought my thing. And the joy that you just brought to it just by thinking of when people buy your product that you spent so much time on and love and all the techniques that you've learned, that's the coolest. Like that.
Absolutely.
That's very cool.
It makes me happy and it makes someone happy. What else could you ask for, really?
Exactly. So someone put a quote in the box, which I have to tell you, because as a scientist, you'll appreciate this. So Peter M. Brandt said, art and science have so much in common. The process of trial and error, finding something new and innovative, and to experiment and succeed in a breakthrough.
I totally agree. Thank you for writing that.
Right? Like that's amazing. It is. It's all trial and error. And it's icing on the cake when the thing that you bring into the world speaks to someone that I want to bring it into my world. Like that. That's really cool. That's what this is all about. So those are the end of my questions. We're nearing the end of our time. Is there anything that we didn't talk about that you really want to get out into the world? Or I know you'll have your virtual booth. We'll link to it in this event so people can go check out the wonderful things that you've created and put out into the world. But yeah, did we miss anything?
No, I think we're good.
Okay, well, wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing a little bit of your Saturday with us. That's awesome. For all that joined us live and for all that are joining us on the replay, we appreciate it. Don't forget Anvil Fire and Time. It'll be, I feel like a YouTuber. It'll be linked in the description below. And you can check it out and go buy your very own piece of art. So with that, we're going to stop the recording and say see you later. Thanks so much.
All right, thank you. Bye-bye.